Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Man channel for another episode of Symphonic Sundays, the series where we talk and promote all things symphonic metal. And this week, we are ranking the albums of the German symphonic metal band Beyond the Black, who were formed back in 2014 by singer Jennifer Haben. Now, we've got 5 studio albums to rank, as always, from our least favourite to our favourite. And because there's not many albums in this particular discography, I thought I'd get 2 guests this time. They are, of course, regular guests on the channel. You may know them from series like Is It That Bad? Also Dark Horse Discs in the past on this channel. In fact, you probably very likely know them. Of course, Children's on a Couch reviews. Hector,
Yeah.
how you doing? And you also got John, JC Rock and Meta Reviews, who is also celebrating his birthday today. So everyone wish him a happy birthday in the comments.
That makes sense.
All right, awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to start actually with JC today. So you're going to kick off with the first round. Actually, I should say we're doing 3 rounds. So we're going to count down 5, 4, and 3 in round 1. And then for the second round, we'll be doing our 2 and 1. And then the final rounds, we'll be doing our top 5 songs. So JC, if you're ready to do your 5, 4, and 3.
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, my number 5 is going to be Heart of the Hurricane. This is their third album, I believe. This one, it was not too bad. I thought, like the other one, that's cool. I don't know, I thought they were kind of moving towards almost like an Evanescence type of sound. That's kind of what I found in some of the songs. But it was not too bad. Like the opening track, Hysteria, I was disappointed that I wasn't a Def Leppard cover, but otherwise it was a good song. I think my favorite song on this particular album would be track 12 called Freedom. And I thought I just like the heavy guitar riffs, but there's some decent stuff. There's some like softer ballads on this one. Other songs are more like epic, like battle music with some folk music. Some of it sounded like nu metal, so this one was not too bad. My number 4 is their 2020 album called Horizons. This one actually liked it at first, but I guess kind of dropped for me. I think it was it had more of that metalcore, like a little bit more of that electronic sound. But there were a few good songs on here. That song "Human," a very catchy song. I'll probably talk about that in my top 5 later. But I like that song. And then the other song, "You're Not Alone," that was a good song. But otherwise, there wasn't like a lot here. They have a song called "Some Kind of Monster." Again, disappointed it's not the Metallica.
It's not a Metallica cover.
Yeah, that would have been. They probably would have done a better version of that. But otherwise, that's my number 4, and my number 3 is Lost in Forever. That's their second album. This one I was surprised. It actually went up for me because this one I kind of thought was kind of boring at first, but after listening to everything a couple times, this one kind of grew on me a little bit. This one was pretty good, a little more laid back, I guess, more acoustic stuff, more folk stuff. Some stuff's a little harder, like they have some songs that sound more in the vein of like Nightwish. But I thought it was the songs were pretty good, so that one they kind of grew on me a little bit. I like the song "Written in Blood." That was a really good song. I like the vocals with that one. So that's my number 3. Yeah.
Very interesting start. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. All right, Hector, over to you, man.
Nice. So, well, kind of like number 5, I would put Horizons because it didn't do that much for me. Something with this band, I thought like a lot of songs sounded the same. like I'm like, oh my God, it's the same thing. And I would drop the dude that sings. Like, we don't need him. Like, we just need the woman singing, just like with Lacuna Coil. The dude he's irrelevant. Like, at least to me. He's gonna be like, how dare you? But yeah, so I would say Horizons. Then my number 5. My number 4, I would say it would be Heart of the Hurricane. And yeah, I thought it had some good stuff, but again, I felt like it had a lot of like repetition in the music. And the other one that I picked at my number 3 was Lost in Forever, because it had some epic songs, but sometimes it kind of bored me. So a problem that I had with this band, the albums are too freaking long. Uh, they're like an hour in length. They could easily cut the fat, and I'll go into another round with that. And I think it will flow better because at some point I'm like, oh my God, it's just more of the same. So it's not that it's bad because she has a great voice. And I remember because you told me when to talked about this, like, oh, you listen to them. I'm like, have I? And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember the last album where I compared them to Nightwish meets Hailstorm. I'm like, yeah, I remember because when I was releasing, I'm like, oh yeah, I listened to their last album. So because this is not a band that I really knew of. Uh, because disclosure, I gotta say it on this symphonic metal. I'm not the most symphonic metal dude. It's not like my favorite type of genre, but yeah, I would say those albums. So it's the same as JC, just a different order.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so my number 5 is Horizons. So
Mhm.
I think it was them moving more and shifting more and fully embracing a lighter, poppier sound for me, because on albums prior to that, you did have some, like, I wouldn't say power metal as such, but more up tempo, heavier stuff for me prior to Horizons. I felt Horizons was taking the foot off the gas a bit. And something that Hector you touched on is they do have a formula, this band, and a lot of their songs are very much in that sort of fairly standard structures that you might expect from sort of poppier kind of songs. And I feel like this album also lacks many exciting hooks. It lacks the guitar power of earlier albums, the guitar solos of earlier albums as well, I think, that I gravitate a little bit more towards. So for me, that was easy to put as my number 5. And yeah, that's my number 5, Horizons. My number 4 might be a bit of a hot take, actually, because I've noticed neither of you have mentioned this album yet. So I'm like, it's their debut. I've gone for Songs of Love and Death, which, I'm kind of surprised I ended up putting this here. But the thing is, the other 3 albums above this to me have grown on me. And I got into this band only when their self-titled album came out. But it did just enough. I gave that album a bit of a mixed review, but it did just enough to spark my interest in them, just about. So that's when I explored some of their other albums, which at first I wasn't really keen on. But for some reason, despite the sort of somewhat formulaic approach I think they can have to songwriting, they really started to grow on me. So Songs of Love and Death, having enjoyed that one earlier on, it has just fallen back a little bit. And I just think it's because I think, although it's a bit of a heavier album with a more powerful sound and production than Horizons, I still think it doesn't have the hooks or the songs or the solos as much for me. Maybe that I enjoy on my other albums that are higher up. So yeah, that's my number 4. And my number 3 is the self-titled, the most recent one. I actually do quite like this album, and it has grown on me a bit since I did my sort of relatively mixed review back last year, at the start of last year. I think what I really like about this album is its structure. It's really well structured for me. I think the album has a fluency to it that a lot of their other albums don't. I think you've both touched on how their albums are very long. Some of their albums anyway, but this one's 40 minutes or so, I think, and it does what it needs to. I think it makes its points well in the songs. They're concise. They're pretty well written songs, and I think this album is them getting back on track for me after falling off a bit with Horizons. So yeah, that would be my number 3. So over to you, JC, for your 2 and 1.
So my number 2 is going to be the first one, Songs of Love and Death. I thought that one had lots of great songs. The title track, it's such a catchy song, and the song has been like stuck in my head like for days now. I haven't been able to get it out of my head. But other great ones. I think this was more of a I gotta like look it up, but I think this was more of like a solo album of Jennifer Haven, and I think she formed the band later. I have to verify that, or somebody can verify in the comments. But that's what I think. But this one has lots of good songs. When Angel Falls, that one's like more typical symphonic metal, like heavier sound. Hallelujah is a great song. It's like folk music, kind of like folk metal and power metal. That one's, and then the song "Numb," I like that one a lot. It's like a darker song with that some of that church music, that type of song. So there was a good one. There was a Motorhead cover on also as well,
Yeah.
called "Love Me Forever." That one it was like okay. That one like didn't do much for me. But songs of love and that. So obviously that reveals my number one, which is the self-titled Beyond the Black. I guess I don't know if I might have like a bias towards this because this is the first one I've ever listened to. Also, I reviewed it when it came out. You know, it was like 2 years ago, so I knew this album, so that might have influenced it. But I thought it was just like you just said, it's the shortest song, 10 songs. You know, it's all the songs are very good, you know, well structured. When we go to the next round, I'm probably going to pick a couple songs from this album because I thought the singles were really good. They have some good ballads, some good acoustic stuff, some heavier stuff. It's very like a well-rounded album. So that's my number one is the self-titled Beyond the Black.
Cool. Great.
Nice. So that means my 2 and 1. And Casey, we have the same thing. I
Oh,
picked
you nearly matched all the way
yeah,
through.
we're matching that one, at least in this one. I picked Songs of Love and Death as number 2. I think it's a very solid debut. It's heavier, but again, why is it not my number 1? Because it's too freaking long. And some of the songs kind of blended to me, but the ones that are really good, like In the Shadows and Songs of Love and Death are great. Like something that I've noticed with this band, this is a band that usually with their albums, they really start like very strong right off the bat, and then they kind of lose me. With every album except my number 1, because I felt I don't know why, but they started really strong, but then they started like to lose me. And it wasn't that I thought that I mean, it's not, they're not gonna go in an Is It That Bad episode, but it's just that I felt that they were like doing the same thing. And some of the songs I'm like this song just sounds like the one that I just heard. Like it's too samey, and that's why my number 1 is the self-titled, because I thought, first of all, it's 43 minutes. They cut the fat, and I think it's their most varied album musically. Not every song sounds the same, and I think because I like the other albums, they kind of all sound very similar, except Horizons. But Horizons was weak, was a weaker record. So I thought that with their last album, they had a catchiness to them that was like really good. They trimmed the fat of the songs, and a lot of the songs had more like replay value. So this came out in 2023. So yeah, and 10 songs, 42 minutes in length. I thought it was great, and it was also, I think it's more it's I think it's more commercial, but in a way that is not cheesy.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing with this band. I thought that a lot of their albums had a lot of cheese to them. So I gotta be honest, I thought a lot of cheese, and you know, like there's just so many songs about epic battles that I can listen.
It's a lot of that in symphonic and power metal, isn't there?
Oh my God, yes, like I know, yes, you dream about dragons and shit, but I don't know, I'm more rooted in reality. But yeah, their last album to me, and when I started listening to it, I'm like, oh yeah, I listened to this because I remembered because I listened to, I think when you guys reviewed it, but you're like, you reviewed it. I'm like, no, I didn't review this one.
I mistook your comment for.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that happens with memories, that you misremember something. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I'm like I reviewed a lot of stuff, but I don't think I reviewed this one. But yeah, so that's my number 1, the self-titled.
Yeah, that's an absolutely fair choice. So the reason that I didn't put the self-titles higher than 3 for me is just because, although as an album and a structured album, I think it is the best in terms of its structure and what it delivers, and there's just more songs on my top two albums that I enjoy more than most of the songs. So it came down, for me, it came down to which albums am I more likely going to return to. Actually, I feel like I'm more likely to return to my top two. So my number two is Heart of the Hurricane. We're both pretty low down for you guys, I think. I just enjoy quite a few songs on here, but there are a few duds as well, I'll admit, on the album as well, and it kind of makes it longer than it probably needed to be. And actually, one of my favorite tracks on this album is a bonus track as well. But you know, Hysteria is the one you mentioned that you thought might have been the Def Leppard track. I think that's a really good song, but I'm avoiding talking about my top five tracks. I realise that
Yeah, that was a good song.
I'm just sorry. I hear Hysteria and I start singing that song.
But you know, I like the. I mean, I guess I mean, I like a lot of stuff which is it's almost power metal adjacent. This album, you know, not necessarily full on power metal, but there's a lot of powerful, great guitar riffs and some really good solos, some good Jennifer moments, and good good Jennifer choruses. Although they the songs do fall into that familiarity fairly quickly. There's just a lot of some really good cracking just rocking songs, and I can't really explain it beyond that, but I think it has grown on me as well a bit, even though I think there's a catchiness to these songs, but also sometimes you realize that there are songs that reach out to you a bit more the more you listen to them as well. There's a weird thing going on with me in this band. I don't quite know what it is, but yeah, that one's my number two. And my number one is actually, I put this as well in my Symphonic Metal list that I did that got way more views than I had anticipated last year, and it's Lost in Forever. I think you guys had this about midway down, so I really like this album. I particularly like it in the second half. I think that interesting, Hector, your point that they do start off well with this album, actually. Lost in Forever and Beautiful Lies, I think, are really good songs. But as it goes on, you get towards the end, you get tracks like Forget My Name, Burning in Flames, Shine and Shade. And I want to talk a bit more about those later on anyway, possibly. I'm naming enough tracks that I'm not giving away, hopefully, my top five later. But I just find I think it's a good album. I think it's got their most sort of interesting written tracks for me, where they vary to sort of have pre-chorus going into chorus, and the way they do that on this album, I think I really like. They have the Beauty and the Beast vocal thing, I think, working well on this one too. So I think
the Beauty and the Beast,
the Beauty and the Beast vocal setup that everyone talks about, I think that works quite well on this album too.
Get rid of the beast.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of their more metal ones too. It's got folky elements. I think JC mentioned folky elements and things like that I like too. So yeah, that's my number one, Lost in Forever. And that means we do our top
Right.
Can't speak. Top five tracks. So on to you, JC.
Top five songs. All right, so my number five, it's the title track, Songs of Love and Death. It's an earworm. It just like just that song is just catchy. I like the acoustic guitars, the softer singing and the heavier parts. So that's a good one. Now my number four is going to be one from the album that like a lot of us didn't like, called Horizons, but it was another one of those songs that was just very catchy, called Human. And it's just that chorus, like, we are human, we are born to die. They keep saying it over and over again. I think that just
my God, that song depressed me.
I know, it was depressing, but I like that. I like the sad stuff. So that's why I have it on my number four. That was like, I think on that album, that was like the one song that stood out amongst the others. So and then my top three are gonna be from the self-titled album. My number three, Not in Our Name, from the self-titled, just symphonic metal, kind of like a power metal, kind of like a power ballad, but you got the acoustic guitars, almost a little bit of a country vibe, and I like that part. And the singing kind of reminded me of the Cranberries. I like that part. And they had like the harsher vocals in the second half of the song, so that was a good song. And I have another sad, dark song called I Remember Dying, and it's the same type of song as, I guess, Human. They're talking about you're dying, that has that repetitive chorus, but it has the violins, and just very powerful lyrics. Kind of a the lyrics were kind of like simple, but sometimes that works because it just makes the song more memorable. You kind of remember that one. And my number one is I believe it's the first single of the self-titled "Is There Anybody Out There." Just a great, well-rounded song. It just shows off their style. Very catchy, just great guitars, just a great sound, great vocals. I like everything about that song. So, and again, that was from the self-title. So that's my number one. Is There Anybody Out There? Yeah.
Nice. So I guess that leaves my 5 songs. So I like the one from the first record, the Songs of, what's the name? Songs of
Love
Death
and
and
Death.
Sorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I would pick that as my number one. I'm sorry, some of these albums like blended for me. So I'm like, which song is on which one? I like a single called "Call My Name." That's from the last one, right? Or was that like an individual single?
Was that
Call My Name?
Call My Name, yeah. Because
Um,
it's like a single, but I didn't find it anywhere else. But it's really cool. But it's a song
oh
by
yeah, I think that, you know, the word, I think that's a one-off singles because I was watching a music video with the movie Suicide Squad.
Mhm.
There was like a scene from that movie. I forget what song it was.
Yeah, because that song came out in 2023. I'm like, but it's not on the last one. But I thought it was like really catchy, but it wasn't on the. I'm like, where the hell is that song? So I would say that's my number 4. And I think their last album, almost all the songs are from the last album because I like that album. So my number 3, I like the song Reincarnation. We have a theme here. John likes the one about dying, and I likes the ones about living. Like reincarnation, like we live again, or something like that. So I thought that was catchy and epic in a way that it wasn't that corny. So I think that would be my number 3. And then I would pick number 2. Is There Anybody Out There? I thought that was a great album opener, and really catchy, epic. And my favorite one, and I think they released this song way too late. It's called "Winter Is Coming." I'm like, Game of Thrones ended years ago. Like, you missed the boat Beyond the Black. Like, you could have put this before. And I'm like, "Sunday, winter is coming." And I don't know. I was listening to that song and thinking of Game of Thrones. And I remember, I don't know if you guys seen Game of Thrones, but they say winter is coming from the first episode, and then 10 seasons pass, and then winter comes for one episode, and it's gone. And I'm like, you made me wait 10 years for one freaking episode about winter is coming. So yeah, but going back to yeah, that's when, a spoiler for those who haven't seen Game of Thrones, but that's where the night watch, the blue zombies come, and they get defeated in one episode. So, but that has nothing to do with this song. But I just thought it was a catchy song. It's cheesy, but it's cheesy in a fun way, and I like the vocals. I think she's a great vocalist, and I picked most of the songs from this album because I think this is their strongest album in my opinion, because I think they cut the fat. They did more variation, because I would like to name as another song from this one, "Wide Awake," which is more acoustic and it's different. And I think they did something different in this album, and I think they varied the formula a little bit. And I would like the band to do more of that and not go back to the other stuff, because I just think it sounds too samey. And I think on this album, I don't know if the producer told them, like, let's cut, like, we don't need an hour and 10 minutes of this. Like, I think 45 minutes is enough. So that's why almost all my favorite songs are from that record. So go figure.
Yeah. I think Game of Thrones, it's still George R.R. Martin hasn't finished writing it to the end.
He'll probably die before he
yeah, I think
finishes
we're still
that.
waiting for the actual story to.
Right now, who cares?
I don't know. I don't know.
There's another series. Is it called like Return of the Dragon or whatever it's called?
House of the
I don't
Dragon.
know. I'm not into that. What?
House of the Dragon.
House of the
House
Dragon.
of Dragons. Is that a prequel? Or?
Yeah, it's a
Huh?
prequel about the Targaryens, which they're all blonde and they all sleep with each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of incest.
It should be called House of the Incest. Oh my God, I'm gonna get this video demonetized for Tom.
Where are we? So my top 5 songs. We'll move away from incest to back to black.
Let's move away.
So my top 5. My number 5 is Dies Irae, a very high tempo track from Lost in Forever. What is it? Number 7, track 7 on that one. There's a bit of an Iron Maiden-y bit in the bridge, and they go into this big guitar part, dual guitaring, and a good, really good guitar solo in that track as well. And it's just really catchy, you know, earwormy, as you were saying earlier, John. Just very earwormy song for me. And I just like the sound of that. It's a bit power metal-y. My number 4 is Wide Awake, from a self-titled, as you said, Hector. Really good ballads. Really, you know, really well performed by Jennifer. Lots to like about that song. I think it's a really strong song. My number 3 is a track called Fairy Tale of Doom, which I think it's kind of the song that'd be easy to miss because it's quite deep into Heart of the Hurricane. After 3 or 4 tracks I'm not really very interested in as well, but it kind of comes out of nowhere, and I really like I just like the verse, the pre-chorus and chorus of this song in particular. Again, it's kind of earwormy, but I feel like it doesn't tire out quickly. It's got enough in it that it doesn't tire out too quickly, and I like Fairy Tale of Doom a lot. That's my number 3. My top 2 tracks are both from Lost in Forever, towards the end of the album. My number 2 is Forget My Name, which has different bits to it. You know, it's not the same structure as a lot of their other songs on a lot of their albums. It sort of has, you know, a very sort of mellow part in with an acoustic guitar. It varies the themes in different ways, although you do get the chorus repeated 3 or 4 times. I think it does do enough to vary the theme a bit here and there, and I really like the chorus anyway. So I think it's a powerful anthemic track. Rather like my number 1, which people I think have compared that it sounds a bit like an ABBA song, and that's Shine and Shade. You know, it's kind of chanty but I again, right, like with Forget My Name, I feel there are different elements to it. They're using different instruments. They're varying it up a bit, which, you know, I think you could make an argument that Lost in Forever, they don't do enough of that. They sort of leave it towards the end of the album. Whereas with the self-titles, as you guys said, there's kind of that structure and that variety throughout, instead of, you know, whereas Lost in Forever, you're kind of waiting more towards the end of the album before you get a lot more of that variety. But overall, it's a really good album, I think, and it's why it's my favorite. I just like the songs that I like, I really enjoy. So that's my number 1, Shine and Shade from Lost in Forever. So that's it. That's our Beyond the Black coverage for the day. Let us know what you think of this band in the comments and your rankings from album number 5 up to album number 1. Look forward to reading those in comments. As always, don't forget to drop a like and a sub to my channels, my guest channels here. Children on a Couch reviews for all his great content, his interviews and album reviews, and also JC Rock and Meta reviews as well. Don't forget to wish him that happy birthday too. And his also fantastic content and thorough reviews and rankings of band discographies. You can go and check all of that out on their channels. And then of course you've got my channel, The Green Man, currently running this series and continuing with the album reviews that I try to do every week, and then also some horror and fantasy content thrown in from time to time as well. So from me and my guests, until next time, take care everybody, and bye for now.